Americans love a good fight. We love a good sports team. We love a good boxing match. We love a good poker match. We'll bet on things. We'll argue about teams. We'll choose colors. We'll choose sides. And we do it on almost everything. One of the biggest problems that we have in America right now is that we can't agree on maybe even the day of the week when it comes to politically agreeing. So our political parties are so fractured that we've really found ourselves at a crossroads. America's politics are fractured on both ends, and it weakens the center. We're watching two extremes pull the country in opposite directions. On the far left, we've got folks like Mondani push radical economic and social ideas that break from traditional American values. On the far right, voices like Marjorie Taylor Greene push their own brand of uncompromising politics that often rejects coalition building. The result, the broad American middle, the people who actually make the country run, get ignored. Neither party's unified, and neither extreme represents most Americans. So what's that mean for us? Well, it leaves us with a fractured America. And a fractured America always benefits someone, and it's never the American people. When America's divided, three groups always win. Foreign adversaries, who like seeing us distracted and inward-focused, radical ideologues, who gain influence when moderation collapses, and elite power structures, who get stronger when every American fights each other instead of holding institutions accountable. A fractured America is easier to manipulate, easier to undermine, and easier to steer off course. Division weakens the very fabric that makes this country exceptional. What's the path back? So how do we actually get back to normalcy? Well, the path back is leadership. Not louder extremes. We rebuild by recentering, shared principles. America doesn't heal by doubling down on the loudest fringes. It heals when leaders choose courage over chaos, reason over rage, and responsibility over rhetoric. We need voices willing to remind the country that freedom requires unity, disagreement requires respect, and self-government requires discipline. The founders didn't agree on everything, far from it, but they shared one conviction, that the republic only survives if people stand together. That's the American formula. It worked then, and it can work now. Yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she'll leave Congress on January 5th, 2026. She was one of the most visible faces of the populist American First movement. For years, she embodied the fiery, confrontational style that energized a chunk of Republican voters and frustrated another. Her departure didn't happen in a vacuum. It follows a very public confrontation with the president, internal GOP disagreements, and a broader identity crisis inside the party. So what does her resignation really mean? First, it marks a shift away from personality-driven politics towards something more disciplined. The Republican Party's been wrestling with its own direction, whether it wants to be a party of loud rebels or a party of governing leaders. And the truth is, it can't survive as just one or the other. Leaders have to win elections, build coalitions, and deliver results. Noise alone doesn't move a country forward. Second, Greene represented a frustration many Americans still feel, that Washington doesn't listen to them, doesn't fight for them, and doesn't respect them. Those voters aren't going anywhere, and any Republican leaders who ignore them does so at their own risk. But representing that frustration requires focus, clarity, and responsibility. Without those, you burn bright and burn out. And that's what we're seeing now. Third, the party's being forced to choose the future. Does it become a party built around anger or a party built around purpose? Does it keep fracturing into smaller camps, or does it move forward towards a coherent vision strong enough to govern? Abraham Lincoln said, "A house divided against itself can't stand." The GOP has hit a point where division isn't exciting anymore. It's costly. Fourth, President Trump remains the center of gravity. Whether people love him or criticize him, he's still the leading figure that's shaping the party's energy and direction. Greene's split from him was a political earthquake because it showed how little room there is for open conflict inside a movement still anchored by his leadership. Her exit is less about her and more about the reality that there is one main lane inside the GOP right now, and she veered out of it. So where does the Republican Party go from here? It can't continue fighting internal battles and shrinking its influence, no more than the Democrat Party can break itself apart into fractures that are far left and far right, or maybe less right than the right, but still far right for the left, if that makes sense, right? They need discipline, vision, unity, and leadership that actually solves the problems. MTG leaving Congress is a chapter closing. The real story is the one opening. What kind of party the GOP chooses to become? One that argues or one that leads? One that grows or one that fractures? One that wins elections or one that wins headlines? That choice will define the next decade. And remember, there are still three players who really benefit from this all this fracturing and infighting. And that's those foreign adversaries, the radical ideologues, and the elite power structures. So if we want to have that unified America that can stand together and stand against anything, we've got to get our heads together on both sides of the aisle, and that's the long game.